Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday evening. I keep having to tell myself it's Tuesday. Somehow in my brain, I started thinking that it was Wednesday. I don't know how that happens, but it's Tuesday. Almost the end of November. We are rapidly approaching the end of November, getting ready to go into December, but we have one more connection journal prompt and my favorites that we are going to work on tonight. So I was saying in the chat, if you're like me and you've left these pages until kind of the end of the month, perfect timing to join in and get that all taken care of. So, oh, Meha, you can't be a bird. That was not an option. So I love everybody kind of deciding back and forth whether they want to be a dog or a cat. I would totally be a cat. Our cats sleep like all the time. But which would be awesome for me. So anyway, my name is Maya, and I am coming to you from Denver, Colorado. It was a cold, snowy day today, so I'm kind of wrapped up in my blanket and trying to stay warm. And hopefully you are warm where you are. And my stage manager tonight is Malika. She is here helping me with the chat. Sometimes the chat, there she is waving. Sometimes the chat gets going really fast. And so she can kind of help me see if anybody has any questions or needs me to go back a slide or something like that. So are there any first time Sonder Social folks joining us tonight? Tonight is, of course, we're going to work on the journal. Sometimes we have socials where we work on doing some setup. Sometimes we have socials where it's kind of totally different things. And tonight we're going to focus on some of the journaling pages. Great. So Skyla is here. December is first. I think somebody else was first. So there's no cameras for you and I can't hear you. No one can hear you, right? So you're good to be kind of doing whatever, or if you have the kiddo who's coming in or the cat or the dog or whatever, nobody's going to hear. You don't have to worry about muting yourself. You're all already muted, and there's no cameras for anybody but me. And so just for joining here in the social tonight, and every time you join a social, you are entered into one of our self-care gift raffles. So as many socials as you join, that's as many raffle entries that you get, and then they do a drawing once a month. So super, super fun. All right, so let's get started. So hopefully everyone, if you don't have your November journal, no worries. You can write this in your December one. You can write this on some scratch paper. It's not a problem if you don't have your journal. If you do, then we're gonna get that going. But just for the today and tomorrow, our theme for the month is connection. And we've been really having an interesting time kind of looking at how we make connections with each other and how we make connections with ourselves, right? And I know a lot of folks struggled a little bit with this theme, right? They were kind of having maybe this idea of like, oh, I don't know how to connect with myself. So hopefully you've had some time over the month to really kind of think about the kinds of connections that you're making with other people, connections you're making with your community, connections you're making virtually here, making connections with other folks, and then also making connections with yourself and things that you want to do and things, how you want to be. So tonight's agenda, we're going to do a little connection warm-up activity, and then we're going to work on those journal prompts that are on page 14, and then the ever popular, super fun, my favorites on page 19. So, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's get started here. So this is going to be our first activity. This is just going to be some scratch paper. This is going to be a blank page in your journal. I know people at the end of the month, they're saying there are no more blank pages in my journal. I understand. I totally understand. So you can, again, you can start this in the December journal. You can just find some paper to write on. Oftentimes I use the scratch pad section in my weekly setup to do some of these little these little activities. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about nature, going outside, right? Even though it's a little cold, I was outside for a little bit today in the snow. And so think about that last time you were in nature. Where were you and why were you there? What were you doing? And what did you notice? Did you feel connected to the world and nature around you? What did that connection make you feel like? So, kind of what were you feeling in nature? How did you feel connected? Or did you feel connected? Maybe there was, maybe you didn't have that feeling of connection. But I really want you to kind of think about getting outdoors, what that was like. It may have been a while ago for some of you, it may have just been earlier today that you were outside, and that connection. So you're going to just kind of free write for a little bit. I'll show you, this is mine that I wrote. This worked out very nicely because the last time I was out in nature was on this past Saturday, November 26th. And we went up to Buffalo Creek to get our Christmas tree. It's a tradition that we do every year. This was our 23rd year going up and getting our tree for the house. There wasn't any snow on the ground this year. It was very warm in the sun, but cold in the shade. I love this annual tradition of being in nature to find our tree. The mountain air is so crisp and clean. I feel very connected to myself and to nature, full of peace and happiness with the sun on my face, pine cones crunching under my feet, looking up at the tall trees and marveling at some of the huge rock formations. It's always fun to look back over the years. Again, this is our 23rd year going up there and doing that, to see pictures of our tree cutting and remember our time in nature. So then I just kind of jotted down some things that I had noticed when I was out in nature. The birds flying overhead, crunching of my footsteps on the pine needles, the smell of pine and campfires, the feel of how I feel the wind on my face, the sun on my back. It was super, super warm. It was just beautiful. And this is my husband getting ready to cut down our tree, which is behind him. And yes, it is very tall. I forgot to put in a picture of what it looks like in the house. We have tall ceilings, but it does kind of smush up against the ceiling. I will also say the other thing, when we're up here, I don't really have cell service. So when we're up in the mountains, and so I was disconnected from my phone, and it did make me feel much more connected to being in the moment. I also had to look where I was going, otherwise I was going to trip. You can see there's a lot of little branches and stuff that I had to kind of walk over. So different, feelings of being connected, more connected with nature, and not as and disconnected, happily disconnected with technology. So I also put in here, because I know people like to see snow. This was from last year. So there was a little bit of snow when we went up to get our tree last year. And then I had stomped out a little heart in the snow. My husband thought I was being very silly, but I just had to. There was like this big patch of pristine snow, and I had to kind of stamp out a little heart in the snow. So take some time. I'm going to play a song. I'm going to stop talking and go off camera and just kind of free write. Close your eyes if that helps, and just really kind of think about, what did that feel like the last time you were in nature? What were you there? What did you notice? How did things feel? And feel free to share with us in the chat if you want to, a little bit about where you were and how you're feeling. And then I will check back in here in just a moment. All right. So I saw a few folks talking about, oh, Port Townsend, Washington. Yes, Jacqueline, I've been there and that is lovely. So hiking around there with the pine and the cedar trees and the pine cones in the water. That's the one thing Colorado is a little missing. We don't have an ocean. We have lots of lakes up in the mountains, but no ocean right there by the mountains. So that's, I think, always a perfect setup in nature when there's the ocean there and the forest and the trees and the pine cones and the smells, um, and kind of being able to see what that looks like. Yeah, and Malika's saying like there's some eucalyptus trees. I bet that smells really, really good out, right? So really nice. And Angela's saying it's been way too long since she's been in nature. I know if you have to sit there and think like, when was the last time I was in nature? It's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to get outside. So Angela, maybe tomorrow you can get out for just a little bit and get some fresh air and see some trees, maybe see some other fun things. Walking around the neighborhood by the lake, love the water, seeing the water, kind of having those smells. Sunset beach walk, oh, so jealous. Love that. Yeah, and for folks who live in the city, right, it's kind of tough sometimes because you do feel a little disconnected from nature, right? It's kind of the concrete jungle. You've got buildings and you've got sidewalks and maybe a few little trees here and there, but you know, that's kind of it. So if you haven't been out in nature for a while, maybe that's something you can kind of put on your to-do list or your bingo board for the week, is to get out a little bit and then think of these prompts that I'm asking and think of these as you're sitting outside or as you're walking outside. How do you feel connected? What are you noticing? The smells, the sounds, the feelings, kind of what that looks like. All right. So we've been out in nature for a little while. Let's move on to our connection journal prompt on page 14. And again, if you don't have November's journal, not a problem. I'm going to read these prompts out for you. You can use page in December. You can use notepad, scratch paper, whatever works for you. So there's two different prompts here, and we're going to tackle each of them separately. The first one wants you to think about what connection or to be connected means to you. So maybe that talk about nature kind of prompted some things as you're thinking about what does it mean to feel connected to nature or feel connected or to be connected? What images or words or thoughts or examples come to mind? What kinds of things do you think about when you hear that phrase, to be connected? Right? So that's our first prompt. Our second prompt is going to be about disconnection. But first, I want you to think about the connection part, right? Like, what does that mean? So what does that connection or to be connected mean? And so I just kind of found some fun images, and I love the one of the people in my favorite color, purple, kind of all standing together, holding kind of interlocking arms behind each other's back, just that kind of really tight, close-knit feeling of connection, right? And sometimes we think about community, and sometimes we think about sharing thoughts or being connected on that level. So I kind of liked the people with the fun stuff in their hair and kind of this bridge of connection with people kind of bridging that gap between two people's thoughts. And then when I did mine, I am not a fabulous artist. So sometimes drawing makes me a little uncomfortable. So I just kind of plopped in some words, and I was thinking about just that word connection. And at first I was like thinking about connection to myself, connection to my community, connection to the world, connection to friends. And then thinking about how a lot of times I feel a strong connection with music. I love music. It has always been kind of my go-to when I'm happy or sad or depressed or angry, kind of listening to a good song to kind of either help me kind of live in the moment. Yeah, Malika, it's kind of is mind mapping with the connection piece, right? But that music or books, have you ever read a book and you really feel such a strong connection to those characters and to the story? And then when you're done with the book, it's almost like, oh, these people are gone. I've lost my connection. Or just, stories that people tell, movies, television. I love going to the movies in the movie theater. because I feel like I'm so much more connected. When I'm at home watching TV, I'm usually knitting. I'm also like popping up and down. The cat's in my lap, the cat's out of my lap. I'm getting something to eat. I'm running to the restroom. But when I'm in the theater, I feel such a sense of connection. Yeah, Malika's saying she falls asleep when she watches movies at home. But I feel such that sense of connection because it's this dark room, and you get very focused on that screen. So I was also thinking about, connections to the world, or also connections to myself, my dreams, my goals, my ideas, really kind of feeling all of those different connections. So again, turn to your journal for this, and it was on page 14. And that top box, just fill out. You can do like what I've done here, a little mind map. You can do a drawing of what connection feels like. You can just kind of pop in some words. You can write a little story. Just kind of see what comes up for you. And again, if you're not sure how you're feeling about connection, just take a second and just kind of think on that. And I'll play some music, and let you kind of write that out. And you're welcome to kind of chat it out in the chat as well, kind of what makes you think of connection, what you think of when you see the word connection, what that means, and how you feel when you think about being connected. Right. Lots of really good words and ideas of how the word connection or to be connected really kind of resonates with folks. And I had written in the chat that, have you ever noticed when you meet someone and you're not really kind of sure about them, you try to find something in common, right? So you'll talk about maybe people you know or places you've been or favorite restaurants or hobbies, right? I will say, as a knitter and a lover of yarn, I often can find ways to connect with people when you can kind of make that knitting or yarn or crochet or that kind of connection, because a lot of folks do that for a hobby. And really, kind of thinking about how everything really is connected in some way. And I'd said, talking about that idea of 6 degrees of separation, which people had kind of turned into the game of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you can trace any actor back to a film they were in with Kevin Bacon with only 6 steps or fewer. And of course, now he's been in so many movies, I don't think it would actually take, definitely doesn't take that many. But yeah, so definitely all those different ideas. And a lot of you said things like connection is about feeling safe. Connection is about feeling a sense of belonging, feeling no judgment, just feeling like you can be who you are. And a few other people said that they've noticed that it's easier to make connections when they are more connected with themselves than when maybe they're trying to be someone that they're not or try to pretend to be someone that they're not. And it's harder to make those connections. So feeling more comfortable with yourself, which sometimes just takes time and practice, kind of being comfortable with who you are, but really being able to kind of make those connections, because that's definitely something I think that we crave. And certainly during the pandemic, I think a lot of folks really realized how important those human connections are, and seeing people face to face. And even people who aren't a huge fan of going into the office kind of missed going into the office. And I know tons of kids really missed going into school, even though usually when you ask a kid if they like school, especially middle schoolers, they don't like it. But all the middle schoolers that I've talked to have said that they really miss school because that's where they saw their friends, or they felt like they could talk to somebody about what's going on, or any of those different kinds of things. So now that we've got that sense of connection, we've got that kind of what it means, we've got some examples, we've got some thoughts, let's move over to the one where we want to think about disconnection, right? We want to think about what does disconnection or feeling disconnected bring up for you? And we certainly have had some folks talk about how sometimes they feel really disconnected from other people. Sometimes they feel isolated, kind of what that looks like. So what are some areas in your life or situations maybe where you feel more disconnected than maybe you expected? Why do you think that is? And also sometimes as we go through different phases of life, maybe there's something we intentionally or unintentionally let go of, right? Things change as we get older. I certainly have noticed there's things that I used to do all the time in my 20s and 30s that now I don't really do at all in my 50s, right? And it's not that I don't like them anymore. It's just that it doesn't quite connect with who I am now, and how I feel about things now, right? Is there anything that you feel disconnected from that you would maybe like to reconnect with, right? Kind of thinking about that, maybe thinking about life events that have been a catalyst of change in how you lead your life. I also wanted to point out, oh, thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, I'm 53. I always have to check. Sometimes maybe disconnection could be good for us, right? Disconnecting from technology. We talk about that all the time, right? Like I was saying, when I was up in the mountains, I had no phone signal. So I was only using my phone to take pictures, and then I'd put it back away. And I felt much more connected to how things are, right? So think about that idea of disconnection. Think about how that makes you feel. Maybe if you're experiencing it now, kind of what you're thinking about, what you're kind of going through with that. What does it mean to be disconnected? What are some things that you maybe want to change to feel more connected? What are some actions that you could take? What are some situations that you're in? Those kinds of things as you think about being disconnected and that feeling of disconnection. So first, again, this is a great opportunity just to kind of like throw out words. Like some people were just kind of throwing out those words when they thought of connection. Do the same thing now with disconnection or disconnected. What do you think of when you say, oh my gosh, I feel so disconnected? Right. I know if I take a long vacation from work, a couple weeks or something, and I um, go out of the country and then I come back, I feel kind of disconnected from work. Like I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's been happening. So it takes me kind of going out and checking in with people to kind of feel that sense of connection. All right. So again, going to play a little song, let you write. I did not do that. I was not inspired for this one on the little box. Maybe I will be as we start to write now. But let me know what you're kind of thinking about disconnection or being disconnected. Great job, everyone. I know that's a tough, this idea of disconnection can be really tough. And I really appreciate everyone's vulnerability in kind of talking about how sometimes that can really be a source of, you're depressed, you kind of withdraw, and you start feeling more disconnected. So you start withdrawing more, and it becomes kind of that vicious circle. So it's really, really tough to pull back from that. And I know that's definitely something good to talk with therapist about, kind of talking about, okay, what do you do? Because you start to spiral into that withdrawal and feeling disconnected and no one's reaching out. And then you kind of go further and further. And then you feel like, oh, you've pushed everyone away. So definitely something to get some help with and really kind of think about what can you do. If you're like me, sometimes somebody will text me or somebody will send me an email and I don't respond back, and then I don't respond back and I don't respond back. And I think, oh my gosh, it's been too long. Should I reach out to them? Should I not? Is it going to look weird if I reach out now? And so then kind of that feeling of disconnected and feeling disconnected can be really tough. So my heart goes out to you. Hugs to everybody who's having to kind of deal with that. I loved, there was someone who had said this idea, I think it was Maggie, that had said lacking passion. Being disconnected, sometimes it's hard to be passionate about something if you're disconnected from something, and Meha had talked about when she feels like she's gotten away from a core value. So it's always great to revisit those core values again sometimes and say, like, how am I doing with this? Like, what, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much am I living within my core value? And a lot of times when that feeling of disconnection hits and you look at that, you really start to realize, like, oh, I've kind of drifted away from these things that are really my core values. What do I need to do to pull myself back in and get that good feeling of connection back? What are some things to do? So I think really this is kind of, I know this is hard, and for some people it's been really tough to do, but I think it's good to kind of do that reflecting and see how you feel, getting a good night's sleep, kind of trying to do some self-care, maybe do some meditation, listen to some calming music, that kind of thing, to try to help you feel that connection, right? And like I said, music is always my go-to. So I'll be like, okay, I'm feeling stressed, I need a good song, and I have all my liked songs in Spotify, and I'll just kind of circle through, or I'll make a playlist. That's another great idea too. If you're feeling disconnected, make a connection playlist, right? Or get me out of the disconnection mode, some songs that maybe make you feel more connected to how things are going. And remember, it's not too late, right? Feeling disconnected doesn't have to keep going that way. You've recognized it, you feel it, you don't like it, you've sat with it for a while, and now it's time to kind of pick that up and move on. So great job with kind of spending some time journaling this, writing, thinking about it, and kind of thinking how you can go on with that. And if you this ties in kind of nicely with December's theme, which is believe. And I believe that all of you have the ability to pull out of that disconnection. Just takes a little work, but I know everyone here is a survivor. We have so many stories of people who have fought cancer, bad relationships, divorces, job loss, loss of loved ones, all of those things. So just, deep breath, this too shall pass. We're going to get back to that feeling of connection. We can believe that moving on will help. Yeah. And Kim's saying, I think she disconnects when I'm not feeling like myself because I don't want to be a burden or a Debbie Downer to others. Right. And I think that is a slippery slope, and it's kind of a tough place because you don't want to bring everybody down, but you also are like, I really need to talk about this feeling of being disconnected and I need some help with reconnecting. So again, find those folks you can talk to, and you can always talk to us here in Sonder Club. You can come to the socials, and hopefully that can kind of help pull some of that out. So let's move on to something maybe a little bit lighter. We'll kind of pull, maybe this is a good way to make connections. These are always good questions if you ever do I know Thanksgiving's over, but these are kind of fun if you want to do the my favorites section. So that's why we kind of had the tough part first, and now we have the lighter part, so you can kind of maybe leave feeling a little lighter. So these are my favorites, and lots of different things on here to kind of think about. Hopefully you've kind of, maybe if you haven't had some time, this is the time to work on this, but I will share mine with you. My favorite movie to watch over and over again. I have a lot that I watch over and over again, but right now it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I can pretty much quote the entire movie. Celebrity crush is Keanu Reeves because, Keanu Reeves. One thing I wish I could change about myself is I wish I could stop procrastinating. I'm so bad about procrastinating. My biggest regret is not seeing Prince live. I never did get to actually see him live. I put off, there was a show, it was like $300 for a ticket, and I was like, no. And then he died. And so that's definitely biggest regret. Person I feel most connected to is my husband. If you've seen Frozen, I like to say, or Arrested Development, we finish each other's sandwiches. Family on TV I wish I could be a part of was The Simpsons. I would love to be a cartoon character that never aged. A dream vacation is in Morocco, the Blue City. That's kind of one that's on our bucket list that we're looking at in a few years. Favorite food of all time is nachos. I could eat Mexican food for every single meal, and they could all be some form of nachos, and I would be super happy. My favorite color to wear is purple. My favorite song to sing at the top of my lungs, usually just in my car by myself, is right now it's The Anti-Hero, Taylor Swift, which is also a good one because a lot of times I'll do something, screw something up, and I'll be like, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I think that's such a great song. And the best kiss I ever had was with I'll Never Tell. Like, I'm married, so we'll say it was my husband. We don't want him to to get into my favorites page here. And then the last flirty text I sent, that's really not my thing. So honestly, I don't think I've ever sent a flirty text, to be honest. But maybe you have some other answers. Like I said, I've been married for 21 years. So the flirty text idea, like cell phones were like just kind of a thing when we first got married. So not a lot of flirty texts. All right. So again, I'm going to play some songs for you to work on your favorites. Feel free to share as many or as few. Malik is going to send me a flirty text. I'm kind of scared now. Um, so let us know kind of what your favorites are. Again, this is a great way to make connections, right? Let's see who else has some fun celebrity crushes or a family on TV they wish they could be a part of. So let us know in the chat and we'll check back in. If I can get my mouse to work. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so lots of fun movies and songs. Now I feel like I need to send a flirty text to my husband. He's going to think somebody got a hold of my phone, uh, sending him something strange. Um, lots of other, we had sushi, we had other people saying nachos for favorite food. Lots of different fun. Families that people wanted to be a part of. So fun to just kind of, this is again, like I said, this is a fun page to do. This is also, this would be a fun one to do with a significant other or a friend to see how well they know you, see what they would put for your answers here on the my favorites. So what would they say your favorite food of all time is? What would they say your biggest regret was? So these are all good conversation starters with groups of friends and significant others. So before we finish up tonight, I do want to give you a little idea of something you can do for the rest of this week. Really kind of thinking about that connecting with yourself, since a lot of folks have said this month that they were kind of like, I don't know how to connect with myself. I feel like I need to, but I don't know. So what I want you to do is to look through this list and pick two of them and schedule them in for the rest of the week. So you could put, if you get your journal out, you could put them in your one thing. You could put them on the day. You could put two things in, if you, again, if you have like a little bingo board or your to-dos or one of your habit lists, or you could put it in the shopping list, somewhere in your journal. I want you to find a spot where you can pick two of these things. So one of them is journal, right? So if you're doing your daily ritual, or if you're doing your daily journal prompt, that would totally count. Meditate, doesn't have to be for a long time. Check in with yourself. There's that now on TikTok, the little thing, it'll tell you like, take a picture now. Or there's what's the other one? Be Real app that the kids are having fun with these days. Set an alarm on your phone and say check in, right? Just for some random time. And then just write really quick in your journal how you're feeling, how things are you feeling connected, disconnected, happy, sad, stressed, angry, those kinds of things. Just give yourself a check-in time. Going outside or getting active, right? Some of you were going to go outside to get your nature time in. Have a yes day for you. So tell yourself yes to something maybe you've been telling yourself no to. I saw Malika was saying something about going and getting massages in the evening of Thanksgiving, and it felt so good. So indulge in a massage, or maybe a pedicure, or something that you've just kind of maybe been putting off. Practice gratitude. So maybe write down 3 things that you're grateful for on one of those days. Do something nice for yourself. Do a random act of kindness. Do the pay it forward behind whatever, like in the Starbucks line when you pay for the person behind you. Say thank you, reach out to family or friends, write a letter. You could write a letter to yourself about how you want to connect, or maybe how you want to feel more connection with yourself. Create a ritual, make time for your little loves, your little fluffy animals, your cats and your dogs and those kinds of things. Do a body scan. If you've never done one of those, you can just Google body scan. And a lot of times there's there's little videos and stuff that'll walk you through where you kind of close your eyes and you start with your toes and your feet and all of those kinds of things. Just kind of go up your body to just kind of scan and see how each part of you is feeling. Nourish yourself with the good stuff. Pamper yourself, right? So all of these things, fun to do. And then Elizabeth was recently recommended an activity that she started yesterday. Every time she passes a mirror, she has to look at herself and write on a Post-it note something I like about myself. And I can't leave until I write something positive. I love that idea. I actually have, you can just use kind of those dry erase markers on your mirror, because they come right off the mirror as well. So write yourself a little note, I don't send texts, but I write my husband little I love yous on the mirror sometimes. So you can write little I love you to yourself. There's another thing that someone had recommended is every time you pass a mirror, give yourself a high five, like, woo, yeah, high five. It's amazing all the things that we maybe do for other people, right, that we don't necessarily do for ourselves. So think about ways this week. Pick 2 things. It can be from this list. It could be from something else someone has shared in the chat, but find those two things to do. And there's also tomorrow night, our final social for this month is the Hygge, which will be fun, which I will be hosting also as well. We had one earlier, Karen hosted, and so this will be the second one. And so I would love to see you there for that. It's another fun night of kind of thinking about Hygge, which, and if you don't know what Hygge is, we will tell you tomorrow night when you join us. So have a great rest of your week. It is only Tuesday. I need to remind myself it's only Tuesday. So here's some QR codes. You will get a survey in your email asking you about the social. Please let us know the kinds of things you liked. If you'd like to see more of some different things in the social, if you want us to address some different things. So there's the QR code there, and Malika will drop the links if you want to click on the links to go to that as well. We still have our refer a friend program. So it's the 10 for 10. So you refer a friend, you get $10, they get $10. So very cool, especially during the holidays. Hopefully everyone's in Sonder Club. If you're not, where have you been? Scan that QR code or pop on that link and be sure and join us in there. And then the ever important YouTube link for the social recording, for our social recordings. It takes a few days to get them posted, but they are there. They don't have the chat, and sometimes some of the music's been removed for copyright, but it is still there. So if there's a slide you wanted to see again, or you just kind of wanted to spend some time, maybe again, you had a hard time with the disconnect piece tonight, but maybe next week you want to go ahead and pick that back up again. It's a great way to kind of go back in there and check that out. So also here's a list of my songs from tonight. I didn't play every single one, but I played most of them if you want to take a snap of that. And let us know, again, different kinds of things. Yeah, Malika's saying after party and Sonder Club. Yep. So you can post pictures of your favorites. You can post pictures of your, talk about nature. You can post your connection. You can post any of those things, and be sure to let us know how you're doing. Hopefully folks are doing well. Glad to see everyone here, and hopefully we will see you all again soon. Have a fabulous, fabulous Tuesday. Love to see everyone here in the social, and hope to see you all again soon.